everyone. Thank you so much for joining us again on another episode of Live with P3 Educates. And my name is Sabrina. I'm 15 years old. I'm an incoming sophomore at the Meadows School in Las Vegas, Nevada. And today I am joined by the lovely Teri Bibb. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Sabrina. Thanks for having me.
And how are you today?
I'm doing pretty well. How about yourself?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much. So the first question that I have for you, we're going to take a little trip down memory lane. And what I'm wondering is, did you always want to be involved in the arts?
Yes, my parents teased me a little bit when I was growing up that they said I sang before I talked. And they'd be playing cards with friends late at night, and I'd get out of bed at age 2 or 3 and wander into the room and start singing for everybody, whether they wanted me to or not. And so I started singing in the school choirs and things like that. I started piano lessons in the 4th grade. I sang all through junior high, and then when I was in high school, I did the school musicals and went to college to study vocal performance, and the rest is history.
I gotcha. And did you have any idols that kind of inspired you to take that route along the way?
Yeah, absolutely. I grew up in a small town in Oklahoma, and we didn't have big national tours coming through. We didn't have shows that we could all go see. So I grew up on the movie musicals. I grew up watching Sound of Music, and West Side Story was my all-time favorite, and Seven Brides for Seven Brothers whenever it would come on television. So those movie musical stars like Jane Powell and Shirley Jones and Julie Andrews, of course, they were my idols, and that's who I wanted to be when I was growing up.
I got you. I got you. And do you remember having something specific that you wanted to go into, or did you just know that a specific path down the arts, or just you wanted to be involved in any way?
Yeah, I just knew I wanted to be on the stage. I mean, that happened a little bit later after I did my high school musicals. I remember my senior year, I played Dolly Levi in Hello, Dolly. And I remember the day that we were staging the restaurant scene where she appears at the top of the stairs and all of the waiters are lined up on either side of the stairs looking up at her, and they start to sing Hello, Dolly to her. And I remember crystal clear saying to myself, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. Now, of course, all musical theater experiences are not standing at the top of stairs with all these men singing to you. So that was a pretty good way to start. So yeah, I knew in high school that musical theater was the way I wanted to go.
I mean, yeah. I mean, it sounds like a pretty magical moment, so I feel the same. But I remember you mentioned a lot of the things that you did when you were growing up. But do you remember the very first project that you were involved in?
Yes, when I was in the 4th grade, we did a Christmas pageant, and I was the little blue angel. That was my role. And all I did was I was the angel on top of a Christmas tree. And so I stood on a ladder behind the tree with 2 boys holding my ankles. I'm sure it was not safe at all. They wouldn't let that happen nowadays, probably. But I stood with my hands like this and my eyes closed, and I sang a song on top of the Christmas tree. That was my first public performance.
Wow, nice, nice. And I was also wondering, so you've obviously taken up tons and tons of different roles, such as Christine Daaé and FANNY. And among those roles, which one was really the most transformative for you?
That's a really good question, because as you go through a career and you start building different levels and layers to it, there certain roles rise to the top, and certain roles have different effects on you, and shape you in ways that the other ones don't. Christine in Phantom, of course, was huge for me. It was my first really big high-profile role. It was my first starring role in a national tour, and it's just a magical role to sing. And I also did it for a very long time. I did it on and off for the better part of the 90s. I started in 1990 in Chicago, and I did the tour for 3.5 years, and then I left it for a while to do something else. which I'll talk about in a minute. And then I went back and did it on Broadway for a while. And then I did the tour again. So on and off from like 90 to 98, I was doing that show. And so because of that, I was very identified with that role and with that show. And then I went on years after to continue to sing that music in concerts and with symphonies and things. And I still do. So it has probably, of all the roles I've played, had the most profound, long lasting effect on me as a person. But as far as transformative experiences, there's a show called She Loves Me that was written by Sheldon Harnick and Jerry Bach, the same guys that wrote Fiddler on the Roof. And its original production was in the 60s with Barbara Cook as the role that I played. And there was a revival of it in the mid 90s that I was a part of. I was the standby for the role of Amalia. And I went on several times during the run of that show on Broadway. And the first time I went on, I didn't have a whole lot of notice. And it was my Broadway debut. It was the first time I had ever sung on Broadway. So, and it's also my all-time favorite role to play. It's got gorgeous music. It's the perfect little jewel box of a show. And it's got the most wonderful, funny, heart-wrenching book scenes. And a lot of musicals have soaring scores, but they don't, sometimes the books are not so great.
Right.
This has it all. And it was just a magical production, and it was my Broadway debut. So it always will hold a very special place in my heart for that reason.
Do you think you've kept any pieces of your characters' personalities and put them into yours?
That's funny. That's a funny question. I mean, I can't think of a specific example of that. You know, we try to bring pieces of ourselves to the characters, and I guess you could say perhaps Amalia, the character in She Loves Me, sometimes her confidence could be a little inspiring, and maybe I would aspire to have some of that in me as a person, because that's something that I've always struggled with a little bit on a personal level.
And you talked about going back and forth during your time in Phantom,
Uh-huh.
and you said that you were doing something else. Would you want to go into that? Or?
Oh, sure. Yeah, I left the tour in 1993 to do that production of She Loves Me on Broadway.
Okay.
So I left it and I did that run until it closed. And then I went back into Phantom for a while in New York, and then I went back to the tour. So I left it specifically to make my Broadway debut.
Okay, I see. And do you have any sort of incidents or mishaps that you've ever experienced on stage? Anything
Yeah. Okay, so while we're talking about Phantom and She Loves Me, there two things come to mind. In Phantom of the Opera, when Christine is first starting out and the whole company discovers that she has this voice, she takes over the lead role from the prima donna who storms out. While she starts the aria as her ballerina self, and then transforms during the number into the opening night of her performing this piece. In that scene, there's about a 4-bar section where people surround her. The lights change, the music is swirling, and they put this huge skirt on her that goes over her ballerina costume. And the skirt is fastened with one big honkin' hook, just one big hook like this. And this particular night, they surrounded me, the music was swelling, the hook got hooked, and I stepped forward and kept singing, and I sang like one phrase, and at the end of the phrase, like as if on cue, the skirt went and just fell to the floor. And I had to just step gracefully out of it and continue singing in half of my ballerina costume, because part of it was ripped off when the skirt got put on. You know, it was attached with Velcro. So I could just feel the flush rising in my neck, you know, like, okay, I don't have the skirt on right now. But that's, you know, that's live theater.
Of course. Did someone come to go grab it afterwards?
They had to. During the blackout of the next scene, they had to go fetch it because it was lying in a puddle in the middle of the floor. And then when I was doing She Loves Me, the set of the show was a parfumery, a shop, and it was such a beautiful design. It was designed like a jewel box, like a jewelry box. At the end of the show, the walls would close, and it was rounded. It was rounded like this. So at the end of the show, I'm supposed to kiss the guy. It starts to snow. I drop some Christmas packet. No, I drop my purse. He drops some Christmas packages, and then blackout. And in the blackout, I'm supposed to find the Christmas packages and scurry off stage left. He's supposed to grab my purse and scurry off stage right. And then we reappear for the curtain call. Show's over. So we had done it. It was I was on for a week that time because the girl that I was standing by for was on vacation. So it was Saturday night. It was the 7th show of the week. We kissed, the snow started to fall, the walls closed, blackout. I turned to find the packages, and I saw they had tiny little pieces of glow tape on them.
Okay.
So that's how you found them in the dark, because this little tiny piece of tape, like it's half an inch long. And so I found the first package immediately, and I was like, where's the other one? Where's the other one? Oh, there it is. And I started to walk, and I walked off the front of the stage.
Oh.
And I landed in the front row of the audience.
Oh.
I landed on 2 people, and the armrest between the 2 seats broke one of my ribs and knocked the wind out of me. So I couldn't speak, I couldn't breathe. And I was in the audience, and it was pitch black. And I was trying to feel my way across the front of the stage to get around to the side to go backstage to get to the wings. And I was going, because I knocked the wind out of myself. So yeah, that was a little bit of a snafu, I guess you'd say. And I had to do the show the next day with a broken rib.
Oh. Oh, did you have to like get medical attention immediately? Or
I didn't that night. I didn't. In fact, because I knew I had a matinee the next day, I was like, I'll just power through. I'll just be okay. But so I did the Sunday matinee. Monday, I went to the doctor, and they said, "Oh, you've broken a rib."
Oh no!
I was like, "Oh, that's why it hurts so bad."
We actually have a question from one of our viewers, and
okay,
wondering, what are some dream roles that you have that you haven't gotten the opportunity to play yet?
Oh boy, that is a bit of a challenge as a soprano who is getting older. There aren't a lot of roles. I don't really know why that is. It seems a bit of a curiosity that when there are a lot of roles for women my age, but none of them are. Very few of them are high, lovely soprano roles. They're all like Mama Rose and Golda and Fiddler on the Roof, and like tough sort of belty roles, lower voices. And I still sing pretty much the way I've sung my whole life. So I'm not really right for those other roles. So there's not a whole lot of, maybe my dream role is out there, but it hasn't been written yet. There's one role that I've gotten to play once that I would kill to play again, and that's Margaret in The Light in the Piazza, the mother.
Yes.
I got to play it once. It was an absolute dream, and I would go just about anywhere to do it again because it is such a gorgeous show.
Yeah. And did you ever have any experiences in your career where you felt like you couldn't do something, but you actually ended up surprising yourself?
Oh, that's a good question. Yeah, a few years ago, 3 years ago, I think, I was cast in a play. And I haven't done a lot of plays in my life. I've done almost exclusively musicals. This was a play. We were doing it in Palm Springs at Coachella Valley Rep. And it's a Gurney play called Later Life. And in it, I was cast as I had to play 5 different characters with 5 different accents, 5 different wigs. I had to play a grandmother from outside of Boston. I had to play a Southern belle wife, like a trophy wife. I had to play the hostess. And I was a little intimidated. I mean, I've always loved doing accents, and I've had to do them in various shows over the years, but never 5 in one show. And they were all really quick changes. So I had to just like run off stage, take everything off, put all the different things on, and come out as this completely different character. And I honestly, going into it, I wasn't 100% sure I could do it, but I loved it. I loved doing it. Yeah, it was so much fun.
Would you say that was the point where you felt most out of your comfort zone, or do you have any similar experiences to that?
Yeah, that was starting out in that show. It was not in my comfort zone, but I think as actors, we're kind of accustomed to making ourselves go outside our comfort zone. That's kind of the definition of every time we start another job is like, oh, can I do this? I remember one of the TV shows I did a few years ago, I had to play a judge, and I thought I was going to show up and it'd be a courtroom full of people and everybody looking at me, because their scenes were already shot and they were just bringing in the judge to do her ruling, and one of those kind of shows. And I was petrified. And then when I got there, it was just me and the director, and they were gonna put me into a scene that had already been shot, through the magic of television. So it was really low pressure. It was just me and the director, and I was like sitting at a desk with a box on top of it. There was no judge's desk. It was all going to be put in posts. So that was unusual, kind of not what I was used to at all. When I sang at the White House back during when I was doing the Phantom tour, that was really outside my comfort zone. I thought I was going to throw up before that performance, but really special and really memorable, of course. So we're kind of taught in school, actually, when you're going through your training, that you have to put yourself out of your comfort zone, or you won't achieve, what you want to achieve. You can't play it safe.
Right. So you mentioned a little bit of your time on the screen and your experiences there. So what would you say is the biggest difference between screen and stage, acting-wise?
Oh, the audience.
Right.
Yeah, the feedback from the crowd, the rustle of the laughter that you hear when something is funny, the intake of breath when there's something exciting, the second of hesitation before the applause begins. So there's that, and also the camaraderie, really. I mean, I've never had the good fortune of being in a cast of series regulars on a show. I've only done a guest star appearance where I was just there for a day. So you show up, you sit in your trailer, you go shoot your bit, and then you're gone. So when you're doing a Broadway show or a regional show, you're having your 3 to 6 weeks of rehearsal. Where you're all bonding. You're going to dinner afterwards. You're hanging out in the dressing rooms. You're having the long tech days, 10 hours, where you're all just so tired and thinking you won't be able to make it. So they're very different animals. The craft itself is not that different. Obviously, you bring things down into a smaller level and a more intimate nature when you're working with a camera. And just maybe one other person in your scene versus trying to fill an auditorium and doing something grand. But it's really all that other stuff I described that differentiates.
Yeah, I see. And throughout your time in the industry, what do you think is the biggest lesson you've learned, really?
I think if I was going to advise someone who wanted to go into this business, I'd say it's just about perseverance, really. There are so many talented people out there. There are so many people that have so much to give and so much to bring to the table, but a lot of them don't stay in the business, find something else to do just because it's difficult. It's even more difficult than usual these days. Yeah, I say perseverance, belief in what you want, and not letting anything get in your way. If when times get hard, don't give up. If it's truly what you want, you have to stick with it and learn, just keep learning, keep growing, whatever you can.
Yeah. And what would be your best advice for kind of staying involved within this industry, maybe for a young artist, like how they could stay involved within the arts despite the circumstances that are going on right now?
Well, there are a lot of opportunities right now for online virtual things like this. There are webinars that are going on. There are virtual productions happening, especially within the education departments of some of these regional theaters. The theater in Ventura, where I've worked a lot, the Rubicon, they're doing, I think, a production of Charlie Brown right now. And they were putting out word that they needed kids who wanted to just be a part of this virtual production. So everybody's learning their lines and doing their parts from their homes. And in the process, honing their craft, working with a Broadway director, and making relationships, because it's an industry of relationships. It's an industry of meeting people and connections and the little spider webs that go out from there.
Right, of course. And would you like to talk about what current projects you're working on right now?
Oh, sure. I've been involved in some of the online virtual concerts that have been happening, fundraisers for different theaters. The Santa Barbara Ensemble Theatre Company, I did one for them, and I did one for Rubicon that I just mentioned, that theater in Ventura. And in September, I'm doing something that I'm kind of excited about because it's just something I've never done before. They are having a series of drive-in concerts at a drive-in movie theater setup at the Ventura County Fairgrounds. They've already done 2 of them. They're doing a 3rd one in August. There's a 4th one in late August, and I think we're the 5th and last one in September, 7th through 9th, I believe. So it's gonna, everybody will drive their cars in, and they're not even parked next to each other. They're spaced, social distanced apart. They have these massive stage set up with these huge video screens, and the sound comes through your FM radio station in your car. And so I'm going to go see one. I'm going to go see the Plaids are doing it in August so that I can see it for myself. But I hear that the sound is amazing and that it's really fun. They have a team of 4 cameramen that wander around and capture your performance and put it up on those huge screens. So everybody's really watching the screens and not watching you because you're so far away and they're in their cars. And the funniest thing to me, hearing the description of it, was that instead of applause at the end of the number, people are honking their horns.
Oh.
So I've never had people honking at me after a number. So that should be an interesting experience.
For sure.
And I should mention that the show that I'm doing is it's called Music of the Nights with a K, and it's featuring the music of Andrew Lloyd Webber. Oh my gosh, Andrew Lloyd Webber, Paul McCartney, and Elton John.
Oh, wow.
And it's featuring myself and Davis Gaines, who was one of my longtime Phantoms, and he was the Phantom out here in LA for a long time, and Ted Neely, who was the original Jesus in Jesus Christ Superstar, and a couple of other people.
Wow, that sounds exciting.
Yeah.
And just to wrap things up really quick, going back to, being online and doing all those sort of things there, do you think you've formed a lot of new bonds with people, or have you met a lot of people through all your new online projects?
Oh, not yet. I mean, except for today.
Right.
I think that what I've been doing so far have been with people that I have an existing relationship with, places where I've worked before and things like that. But I'm looking forward to that opportunity down the line for sure.
Right. Okay, well, I think that's all for today. Thank you so much again for joining us.
Thank you, Sabrina.
It was really
Take care.
talking to you. Thank you. And join us next week for another episode of Live with P3 Educates at 4:30 p.m. on Tuesday. Thank you.